Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to share a basic colored pencil tutorial, and I am doing this in time lapse. This took me about 22 minutes to color, and I'll be speeding it up about 3 times so you can kind of see it come together. So what we're going to do here is colored pencils, and I'm using some Soho colored pencils. They're regular kind, wax based. You can use whatever you want. So I'm starting off by using a dark blue just to kind of color in the areas that are stippled on this House Mouse design stamp available from Stampendous.com. So I'm going in and just basically coloring the darker areas first where you get the ripples and the waves, and then I'm going in and putting in a light coating in the shadow areas of the water lily there that's right on top of the lily pad. Now personally I like to go in with my dark colors first and then go in with my lighter colors. So now I'm going in with kind of a lavendery purpley pink and adding a layer of color all over that lotus flower. Now the nice thing about this stamp is that you can actually see the reflections in the water, so I can go ahead and add that color to the water as well as I see it in the reflection on the picture. And also the other good thing about this is that you have all these little dots. It's called stippling. Like the way this illustrator illustrates these stamps, it's done with a bunch of little dots, so it's kind of got the shading down. So if I put this like thin layer of color like I'm doing here, and here I'm going in with some sap green on the lily pad, if I just do that thin layer of color and I decide to do no shading or highlighting or blending or anything, it's still going to look nice. So I really wanted to share this with you as one of the stamp school videos in this series, because I think that it shows you that you can do it this far and it's going to look good, or you can go the extra step with some blending solution, which I'll show you very shortly. So here I'm just going over all of the little yellow flowers. I decided to make them yellow because I thought it would be a nice contrast with the purple, because purple and yellow are complementary colors, or they're opposite on the color wheel. So I'm just going over everything with like a medium yellow. And now I am taking a paper stump and I just dipped it into some Gamsol, which is like an odorless mineral spirits, and look at how it changes the color. So I'm just going over that thin layer of blue that I had added into the shadows on my water, or into the ripples that were stippled there by the artist, and I'm able to spread that out and give it a much more intense color without adding any more pigment. So it's kind of a way to get your regular colored pencils to look like a watercolor pencil. That way you can get kind of 2 looks from the same product, and it can save you some money rather than buying 2 low quality sets of pencils, a low quality watercolor and a low quality colored pencil. You could instead buy a more expensive set of colored pencils and just get 2 looks from it. So I think that's a really great ability to have. And then I like to blend like any reflections after, just to make sure that I don't muddy things up. And I'm doing the same thing in the lotus flower. I'm blending, and you can see it just kind of fills in the tooth of the paper. Now the cardstock I'm working on is actually a very inexpensive cardstock. It's the Georgia Pacific brand that you can find at Walmart or Sam's Club, and I stamped my image with an ink called Memento. And if you're familiar with the stamp school lessons, that's kind of one of the ink pads that I recommend, because with Memento ink I can go over my colored pencil with odorless mineral spirits and it's not going to smear it, and I can also use permanent markers on this and it won't smear it either. So whenever you're going to use Gamsol, odorless mineral spirits, Goo Gone, any of those solvents, make sure you stamp with Memento ink, and I just use the Tuxedo Black for that. Now I'm going back in with my colored pencils and I'm adding some more colors, and I've got this white and I'm going in and putting on some little highlights on the lotus. Now I do notice at this point that the paper is starting to get full of pigment, so I'm not going to be able to layer too much on this because it's just getting very full. But I am able to deepen my colors, and I'm going in with this kind of like golden ochre kind of color, and I'm going in and adding some details. It's kind of like a brownish gold. And I'm able to kind of put in some depth in those flowers there, so it really makes them pop a little bit more from the background. And so basically the nice thing about this technique is that you can keep on adding layer by layer and have it become a little bit more richer of color and a little bit more bold and interesting. But if you want to make a quick card, you can just do that first layer and call it done if your stamp has a lot of nice shading on it like this one does. So it just kind of gives you some different options. You can put more time into it, take the coloring to the next level, but you know what? It's still very pretty if you want to just leave it with 1 layer of pigment. Now I'm going in with some brown and I'm adding some shadows onto the lily pad. I'm kind of dulling down that green color a little bit, and I added a little bit of color under the lily pad as well. You can also use that brown to put details into the little yellow flowers too. It can add a nice little kind of contrast without muddying it up too much, which I really like. And then I'm deepening my green by going over with another layer of green. So you're probably noticing that there's a lot of layer building. I'm adding yellow to the lily pad to give it a little bit more life too. Now I'm using some of the pink from the lotus flower onto my mouse's cheeks, nose, and ears, and now I'm going in with kind of like a flesh color and just filling in the tail, feet, hands, and face, just kind of blending that pink in. And then I went over the whole body with a light gray, and now I'm going in with, I'm deepening that green again. I felt like I needed a little shadow under the mouse. Now I'm using a darker gray to put in the shadows on my mouse's, around its arms and on the edges of its belly, just to kind of make it seem a little bit rounder. And I'm sharpening my pencil off camera. The nice thing about these pencils, these are the Soho colored pencils that I just reviewed, is that they have a lot of pigment to them and not a lot of wax. So even if you don't use a solvent to blend them, they still will not leave like a hazy bloom on your paper. But that's one thing, if you are using a very waxy pencil, using a solvent will actually take away that waxy bloom when you're done, which is really handy. And I'm really not going to do too much more to this illustration, and because it's so, I took so much time coloring it, I'm going to keep the card very simple that I put this on, and I'm simply going to be putting it on some pattern paper onto a craft card base. I'm going in with this kind of darker blue and just reinforcing my shadows and making sure that I have a lot of color where I want it. And now I'm just going in with a smaller blending stump. It's just a paper blending stump from an art supply store, and I am liquefying the pigment on the mouse and then hitting those yellow lotus flowers again just to make them stand out a little bit more. And there you can see, all colored, very simple, but I think it's a lovely effect. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if so, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting!